Okay. Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My co-host will be joining shortly, but we have got two great independent candidates, John Glowa, running for governor in Maine, and Kloud Walton, New York's 25th. Okay, he's having a technical issue. He'll be here shortly. Michael Harbaugh was also an independent candidate in Ohio in 2024. He's not running this time, but he'll be running again in 2028. And I just want to say before we get started, it is so great to see so many independent and third party, but actually specifically more independents than I've ever seen before. Like you guys just keep coming, which is wonderful. But one of the things I noticed right off the bat that you two have in common, and every third party independent has, is the trouble getting ballot signatures or the meeting that hurdle. But why don't we get started? John, would you like to start and just introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's John Glowa. I live in Maine. I am 72 years old. This is not my first rodeo, but it will be my last rodeo. I was the youngest government official in the state of Connecticut when I was 15, so I've been at this for a long time.
Wow.
I just was at a gubernatorial candidate conference the other night, put on at a school, and my message to the kids was never give up. And I let them know that I've been at this for a long time, and really important to never give up. So here I am running for governor. I've learned over time that if the government doesn't want something to happen, it's not going to happen. Our Maine state government is very definitely rigged to benefit those in power and favored special interests. And I've learned that if you want to change the government, you need to be the government. So that's why I'm here.
Excellent. All right, Kloud, we'll go to you.
My name is Kloud Walton. I'm running in the 25th District of New York that covers mostly Rochester. I don't come from any political background, no political dynasty like that. I have a working class background. I've worked for customer-facing jobs for the past 15 years. Most recently, I was in the medical cannabis industry. That experience allowed me to really connect face-to-face with a lot of the issues that we're facing right now, such as like lack of access to healthcare, the struggling from the wage issues. And I decided to just kind of throw my hat into the ring because I felt like we needed more progressive voices and we didn't have them here in my area.
Wow. Well, why don't we jump right into talking about, I happened to see your post, John, on Facebook about the ballots, signatures and that hurdle that you've dealt with. And then also, Kloud, I saw you out with an Instagram post where you were out walking around actively getting them. So either one of you want to take that first? Oh, John, I guess. Okay, John.
Okay. I learned yesterday that I've been going door to door with a broken left foot for over 2 months. I hurt my left foot, had it x-rayed in February. Didn't find anything wrong. And every day it's been painful. My right leg is painful. My left foot's killing me. Going door to door. This is what you have to do. So anyway, I learned that I had 2 broken bones in my left foot, so that's gonna kind of slow me down a little bit. But I do want to say that as far as getting signatures go, it's a racket. And here in Maine, people approach you and you don't know if they're legitimate or not. If you pay them money, you don't know if you'll ever see them again. There's no regulation. And right now I'm being ripped off by a fellow who has a company. And when I say ripped off, I paid him $10,000 up front for 900 signatures, and now he's telling me he's only going to give me 500. And he's been promising signatures to me for weeks, and I haven't seen them. So candidates like us, and actually every candidate who relies on signature collectors, paid signature collectors, is at the mercy of the signature collectors. Supposedly, I have another person working on gathering 2,000 signatures. I mean, I don't know if I'll get them or not. So if I don't get these signatures that I've paid for, I won't be on the ballot. I've put in about $25,000 to $30,000 of my own money, much of which is borrowed. I don't have any money. Okay, I'm not wealthy.
Mhm.
One of the gubernatorial candidates, her stepfather is a billionaire. Okay, I don't have any money, and so it's unfortunate that a lot of people complain. But when it comes to actually doing something about it, it's almost impossible to find people
Mm.
who actually uh, do anything about it. So I don't know if I'll be on the ballot. I don't know if I'll get the signatures that I need.
When's your deadline?
Well, they have to be turned in by June 1. But I mean, there's a tremendous amount of work that has to be done getting these signatures certified by each town office and getting them notarized.
Oh wow.
And Maine's a huge state. It's as big as the rest of New England put together. And I just sent out I just sent out in the mail, I don't know, 30 or 40 petition sheets to various town offices, hoping that they'll certify them and send them back to me in time for the election. So the signature collection process is really rife with problems, at least
Mhm.
here in the state of Maine, and it needs to be regulated.
Yeah, right. Cloud, you're nodding along here. So
I 100% agree. Up here, I'm required to get 3,500 signatures, and that's just the safe bet because in our election, they've already, in the Democratic aspect of things, they've already been challenging signatures, gotten people thrown off the ballot. So the safe is going to be closer to 55. Um, that has been a struggle. I don't come from money myself. I think my campaign has raised maybe all of close to 2,500. So I can't.
That's more than mine.
Yeah, and given I think about 700 to 800 of that was my own investment that I don't expect to get back because again I don't have a lot.
Mhm.
So I can't really afford to get signature petition collectors, circulators. I rely on my very small network of volunteers, and we're all working class people. So all of us have jobs, and we all have things that we have to do throughout the day.
The full-time
Um,
gig.
yeah, it is. Um, so right now, I actually ended up putting in a sabbatical for petitioning season from my job so that I can focus full time on just going out knocking on door to door. And that has been such a humbling experience.
Yeah.
Um, the amount of
Well,
people that I've gotten my doors slammed in my face, people telling me all sorts of things. But also in that same sense, a lot of good conversations have been held. I've changed a couple of people's minds that I went up to their doors, didn't expect the best just based off of lawn decorations. And we managed to have very productive conversations. So I I like it in that aspect, but it truly does need some
what's your
reworking.
deadline?
My deadline is going to be 5 p.m. May 26th.
Okay, so coming up on us, so you're down to the nitty gritty. So nice. So you're gonna probably be able to commit like full time then these next few weeks.
Yep.
Okay, that's what it's gonna
nice.
take. May I ask? Sorry, I'm a little late here. I ran here in Ohio as an independent candidate, and I collected 4,500 signatures to get on the ballot. I needed about 2870 was my magic number, and I turned in about 4,500. And I set the record for getting those approved with an 83% verifiable rate. But part of that is that we had a special election going on here and there was a huge turnout for it, and so I was able to just sit at the polls for 30 days and get all registered voters that were coming in and out. But yeah, let me ask you, like, how's it been, like, door to door, or do you got some big events coming up there in New York that you can hit, like some farmers markets and stuff? I always found those were most efficient.
Yeah, that's where we get the crux of most of our signatures is at the public market. It's every Saturday morning. And then here in my area in Rochester, we have this thing called the Lilac Festival, which is going to be starting, I think, actually this Friday. And we plan on being out there literally every single day for the entire course of each day of the Lilac Festival,
Good.
collecting as many signatures as possible.
Congrats, man. I hope you get there, man. Bust your ass. You'll get there, man.
I have to show, we have a comment here. Dave Bouchaw, who's an independent in Iowa, he was on a couple weeks ago.
What's up, Dave?
I did see his post earlier, but Mitch is sharing this, that he got his signatures accepted yesterday. But I just have to say, as I listen to all of this, you kind of imagine like the powers that be sitting up, like laughing at people, walking
Those
around with
peasants.
broken feet to get these signatures. And, it occurred to me during the pandemic, I thought, why are we, when you couldn't do that, right? You couldn't be out doing that. They allowed, in some sense, if things were allowed to be collected online, I don't know the exact details of that, but Green Party candidate for governor in Maryland, Andy Ellis, was on recently, and he mentioned that. So I need to find out more about that. But if they could allow it then why not now? And I think this is just yet another tool. I mean, there are so many ways that the establishment is trying to thwart independent and third-party candidates. And I'm really starting to look at the bigger picture of that. It's these things like the, keeping off the ballot, but it's also narrative control about how you can't win. And then even I'm an election integrity activist, election security activist, nonpartisan, which that hardly exists, let me just tell you. But there's also that too, that we don't have. We have black box voting. That's just a fact.
Yeah. Well, Kelly, when I was running, if I could have just ran as a Democrat or Republican, and I would have only needed 50 signatures to get on the ballot. How many do the mainstream candidates in your guys' states need to get on the ballot? Is it as steep as it is for an independent? Like, I know it's not.
No, it's 1250 for us up here.
What about you, John? In Maine, do you know?
2,000 for party candidates and 4,000 for independents.
Wow. Well,
be the other way around.
Jeez, I don't know.
I want to add that if all of our independent gubernatorial candidates make the ballot, it's going to be an historic gubernatorial election for Maine, because we have 4 very, very good independent candidates running. And obviously only 1 Democrat and 1 Republican. So it's going to be a really, really interesting campaign and election here.
That is.
Well, why don't we get into, let me see, I think I may only have part of my pledge here. I have to go find the other half. But let's get into why why people should vote for you as independent candidates. And I know you all saw the pledge, and I'm going to attempt to find the other part of it just a second. But it starts with you're against war. So who wants to take that one first? Kloud, do you want to take that one first?
For which one?
Just about being anti-war, the first item on the pledge. Here we go. This is a better one. There we go. Okay.
Okay, there it is.
Sorry.
Yeah. So right now we are enthralled in yet another war that absolutely no one asked for. Nobody wants. And what do we have to really show for it? Nothing. We have a president that sits in office claiming victory day after day after day, manipulating the stock market, manipulating the market. And the American people are suffering from it. We see prices up at home. We see prices up in the stores, at the gas pump. And I personally know that if I make it into office, I am going to be voting using the World Powers Resolution Act to stop this immediately.
Excellent. John, what about you? And I mean, people can't be pro-war.
Well, honestly, Kloud is running for Congress, right?
Correct.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to keep my focus on state of Maine, people in Maine, and not get too off track. We have enough problems in Maine
Mm,
with, hunger, very, very poor public education system,
mhm.
homelessness, uh, drug deaths, mental health issues. The problems are enormous, and the state government is basically just ignoring them. And so I'm trying to focus on state issues in terms of, I would say, you know, Donald Trump's a madman. I don't know what else to say about that. He really doesn't know what he's doing, and every 5 minutes there's a different so-called strategy for dealing with Iran and whatever problems that he started. So he's just a lunatic.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Let me put this back up. So, how about freedom of speech? And we'll go back to you, Cloud.
Right. So when I think of freedom of speech, I accept the fact that entwined in that is a lot of stuff that I'm not going to agree with or going to want to hear. That being said, I think that we should be protecting the right for people to say those things. Um, I obviously think that we need safeguards in terms of when those things cross over certain lines and certain boundaries. But as long as that they're not crossing those lines, crossing those boundaries, going into the territory of threats or violence and stuff like that, um, I think we need to remember that free speech is a constitutionally protected right.
Right. And John, if you want to skip any of these, that's fine. You could bring up anything else.
Freedom of speech is a big one for me because I worked for the state of Maine for just under 30 years. I worked in the Department of Environmental Protection, and Maine state employees have had their First Amendment right to free speech stripped. They do not have the right to free speech. They cannot speak publicly about what's going on in government, and I think that's very, very, very wrong. So I'm certainly going to be an advocate and a proponent to encourage state employees to exercise their free speech rights. Another issue that concerns me is testifying before the legislature. I have kind of a reputation for trying to speak the truth and say what I think needs to be said, and it pisses off people who are in the government who are on these various committees. So I had one occasion where a committee chair took me aside and basically asked me to tone it down, and I have a problem with that because I believe what he did was basically a violation of my constitutional rights. So free speech is hugely important, and as like I said, as a former state employee, Maine state employees are people too. They have rights as well, and as governor, I'm certainly going to make sure they're able to exercise them.
Mhm.
Great. Great. Okay. So let's see. Michael, do you want to jump in here at all and take the
Not,
next one?
not yet, not yet.
Okay.
You can go to the next one. I can't really see the screen too much.
Oh, okay. It's all right. All right.
It's on my
So
phone.
number 3 is end the surveillance state. We've heard a lot about FISA Section 702 recently. Yeah. Cloud, do you want to take that?
Okay. When it comes to this one, mm,
You don't have to, it doesn't have to be specifically 702. Just how do you feel about the surveillance state, as a whole that's been sort of put in place for a very long time?
Yeah, and just to recap, like the 702 is specifically the government being able to like spy on U.S. citizens without a warrant. So
Right.
there's a whole bunch of big problems with it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
sorry, you've been busy out collecting signatures. It's hard to follow up
yeah,
every single day. It's quite all right. I'm sorry, I should have prefaced it with a little more
no, it's okay.
explanation.
I definitely disagree with the government. I feel like that's just a clear path of government overreach. I think that we have an expectation of privacy. I know it doesn't fully extend when you're out in public and stuff like that. But I don't think that the government has a right to be spying on absolutely anyone.
Right, right. And
I was going to say, sorry, Kelly, a problematic
yeah,
part of it is actually running for office. And so under the 702, in 2024, I ran against Mike Turner, who's a 20-year incumbent plus Rhino Republican, member of the Swamp. And he was head of the Armed Services Committee or head Intelligence Committee, one of those. And he's on the committee, and he was loved the 702. And so it was just very odd running against this guy who's literally head of the committee, is in charge of this 702, and like has his hand on the scale for it. And it's like, under that law, he could spy on my campaign. I mean, nothing's really going on with it as an independent first-time candidate, but I'm just saying, if like so in order to spy on your campaign, all you have to do is just be emailed by somebody from overseas that is on their watch list. So all they would have to do is just email me, and if I responded like, oh, and like answered their question or something like that, if it was from overseas or something, that could flag it, and then the government can look at everything. Look at everything. And so yeah, so I just wanted to give that comment right there.
no,
About
that's
the
great.
702.
Thank
It
you.
was yeah. So anyway,
I don't think I realized that about emails.
Yeah, I didn't
I know
either.
that it's, they can listen in on phone conversations. And so the way they can spy on, it's called reverse targeting. The way they can spy on an American is they say, oh, yeah, you're talking to someone foreign that's on their list. So, but yeah, it's just, it has been in place, ever since 9/11, really.
yeah.
It's been building and building, and both parties are responsible for this. And I think I mentioned this before, but when I interviewed Bill Binney, he told me they're not upholding their oath to the Constitution. This is a Fourth Amendment violation. So, because I said so many of members of Congress don't seem to understand the technology, and he said they don't want to, because then they can say they didn't know, and this.
Right.
So it's Anyway, John, what do you think about?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that, but I would say that here in Maine, I'm assuming you guys are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
We have thousands of Mainers that are homeless, and we have tens of thousands of Mainers that that don't have a place to live where they can actually afford to live. We've got an 80,000 unit housing unit shortage here in Maine, and with regard to the hierarchy of needs, the government spying on people is probably about 99 out of 100.
We're so used to it. Yeah.
It's just not a campaign issue when we have people who can't even afford to live in our state. So
yeah, that's understandable.
Well said.
And oh my God, it's cold there. Well, I can't even imagine.
It used to be a lot colder 30 or 40 years ago.
Sure.
But it's still cold compared to Costa Rica.
And that's what's hard too about gathering signatures in Maine too, especially before this early June deadline, is that it's cold in Maine, in April, May, and the best places to get signatures is out in public. And I'm just saying, it's cold, it's rainy, and there's not a lot, and other than a few areas, there's just not concentrations of people. So yeah, gathering signatures in Maine is you get a lot from the weather elements.
I started January 1, so you can imagine.
Wow.
The coldest I remember this winter being out was 14 degrees. But that's pretty darn cold when you're out there for hours.
Oh yeah.
So they here in Maine, I know you've already said it, but the government does not want independence on the ballot. Period. So that's the story.
I think we really need to work on pushing the online signatures, being able to do that. And this, everyone knows now, and I think there is power in numbers and getting you all of you together to talk about this, so you know what to expect. Like, it used to be that candidates would be surprised by, oh, they're only going to take 2/3 of the signatures, right? But now everyone knows what to expect, so they'll probably just keep moving the goalposts. But as long as you guys communicate with each other, you can come up with strategies, and I think we need to push for the way to collect online signatures.
Maine is at the very end of the tailpipe. So what happens in California today happens in Maine 20 years from now.
Right.
That's a fact. That's the way it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see here. We'll go to, well, maybe this isn't on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but well, you kind of addressed it already,
Government
John.
transparency.
Yeah, government
That's
transparency.
here,
So,
here in Maine. That is huge because our state government, and I openly, freely say this, is an absolute disaster. And when I go door to door talking with people, nobody's disagreeing with that. I mean, that's music to their ears to actually hear somebody who's running for governor admit that the government is a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you, when you talk about government transparency, I'll give you a quick war story. I'm a wolf advocate, wildlife advocate, and I've been working on natural wolf recovery in Maine over 30 years.
Wow.
And our state government claims we don't have any wolves. So I asked them, we have what's called the Freedom of Access Act, similar to the federal government's Freedom of Information Act. But Freedom of Access Act allows the public to have access to government documents, government records. So I asked our Maine Fish and Wildlife Department, can you please provide access to your files on wolves? Remember, now it's an animal they claim doesn't even exist. Okay. So they sent me a communication back, and they told me, well, it's going to cost $90,600 to access their records for an animal that they claim doesn't exist. So this is the kind of shenanigans that, frankly, at least our state government pulls. They use our Freedom of Access Act to prevent the public from having access to public records. Okay, so in our state, government transparency is a huge issue. Our checks and balances between the three branches of government does not work. It does not exist. And not only does the public not know what's going on, the government doesn't even know what's going on in many instances.
jeez,
So that's the old man.
how did we get here?
Yeah. No, I can honestly agree with you on that, John. Over here, the number one thing that I hear from a lot of my constituents is where is the communication? Our current representative doesn't hold any town halls. He doesn't come out to meet with anybody. He doesn't come out and do anything unless it's time for re-election season. And then suddenly he's super active on Facebook. He's super active on Instagram. He's super active on being responsive to people's messages, but still not in any meaningful way. So I definitely feel you when we say that we're suffering from a serious lack of governmental transparency, even when that comes from just being able to reach out to our representatives and ask them questions and having a huge failure in any kind of communication back with us.
So we just had a comment from Rustin Province. He's an independent as well, and I thought this is great. College students are being required to get signatures as part of their political class. That's fabulous.
That's good.
One of the things that I really like about being a candidate and campaigning is being able to meet people, being able to have these experiences. Because for me personally, it certainly isn't all about winning. Each person I meet, I get something out of that conversation, and I think this is a fantastic exercise for students, so they can get to see firsthand what it's like, and frankly, how good it feels to be able to listen to somebody who's worse off than you are, and you show empathy, and you say, thank you for sharing, and good luck, and wish you the best. So just meeting people is a huge, for me, it's just a huge win.
I could not agree with you more. I mean, I'm a journalist, but I love doing this. I sort of fell into doing it for 2 organizations back in 2018. But just meeting all of you candidates and hearing, I mean, you're all saying so many of the same things in unison. It's so inspiring because it tells me that when you see all the bad that's going on in the world and how we seem to have like no control over what our government is doing, we know that there are people out there that want to fix it. And I think we just have to keep talking to each other, and we've got to come up with smart strategies to get past all of these hurdles, because Americans don't want war. They don't want most of what's going on. So yeah, I know what you mean. It's just been great to meet all when we did candidates for Assange. That was great. And you're very inspiring, all of you.
I know what I'm doing, and I think Kloud is doing the same thing. I'm trying to open that pressure valve before the whole thing blows. I want to give people the opportunity. I'm going to have weekly town halls all across the state. I'm going to raise the bar tremendously for Maine's governors. Okay, I'm going to get out of that ivory tower. I'm not going to have an ivory tower. My first night in office, I'm going to have homeless people staying in the Blaine House, which is the governor's house, okay, as my guests. So what I'm trying to do is prevent this explosion by allowing people to speak, to listen to them, to make them feel as though they're part of the governing process, and not only to make them feel as if they're part of it, but make them part of the governing process. That's what has to happen. That's what has not happened here in Maine forever. The government, like I say, the government, if the government doesn't want it to happen, it's not going to happen. I've taken our state government to court. I've filed complaints. I've submitted petitions. I've drafted testimony, made testimony. I've never, ever, ever had a single victory, ever, because the government doesn't want to do what I believe it should do. And that's why I'm sitting here right now.
Well, I would agree with you. I would ask you if you started, you said when you were 15, you held an office?
Yeah.
So how did we get where we are? Was it that bad then?
Well, I was a precocious young fella. Like I said, I've always been an environmentalist, wildlife advocate, and there was an area near my home that was going to be turned into a housing development, and it was just chock full of wildlife. So what I did was I wrote to the state, and I also talked to different organizations to try to gain support for purchasing this land for a wildlife sanctuary. And at the time, our town was just starting up a conservation commission, and I was attending the meetings, and one of my teachers was part of this, and she asked the mayor, is there any minimum age for people to become members of the conservation commission? He said no. So I was appointed to the Conservation Commission, swore the oath and all that stuff. So I was a government official at the age of 15. That area is now housing development. Most of the wildlife is gone, but the battle continues.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are small victories, though, and I think we have to celebrate them. Something similar happened here. I'm in North Carolina, in Durham, North Carolina. There was a high school student who had friends that were living in housing conditions that were just terrible, and classmates. And so they've now taken it to, they took it to city council or whatever. And now, even though there is a state statute that says, if the building conditions aren't good, they're not supposed to be able to collect rent. You're not legally allowed to withhold it, I guess. So, but anyway, they changed that, at least in the city of Durham, and now residents can actually withhold rent if they're violating, the landlords are violating the housing laws. So it's small victories. I could tell you another one about election stuff, but I'll save that for maybe later. But it is hard, and we can't stop. But I think it helps if we share those victories, so people feel it's not so hopeless. Do you have any? Can you think of examples where you are, Kloud, and in your community? If any small victory like that?
Not off the top of my head right now, no.
Okay. All right. Well, that's okay. Let's see. Let me put this back up here. All right. Where were we? Oh, next one. Okay. So how about demilitarizing the police? Let you take that first, Kloud.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about demilitarizing the police, I think that one kind of rings a little bit closer to home for me. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and down in Atlanta, Georgia, I was very active in the Black Lives Matter movement. During that time, I saw firsthand the brutalities of the police. So when it comes to the idea of demilitarizing, it's something I'm fully in support of. When it comes to agencies like ICE, I am more on the abolish and prosecute boat. Um, but yeah, that would be pretty much my answer in regards to demilitarizing the police. I'm fully in support of it.
John, what do you think?
Well, Maine is a very, very rural state.
Mm-hmm.
There are many, many communities that don't have a police force. We'll have counties, we'll have sheriff departments, and we'll have the Maine State Police. Talking with folks in Portland, I know Portland, Maine is our only real city that we have. Talking with folks there, they're really, really concerned about um, overkill by the police. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I know that's an issue there.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you go to the No Peasants Instagram, you'll see a post I just put up today from our last panel, and it is Jay Bowman. He's an independent in Kentucky's 6th district. He's a former Republican, and he said, "I'm for ICE, but I'm absolutely against what they're doing now." And he also made the point that I think it's hard to really argue against this, that when you give all of these police departments tanks and all this heavy military equipment, he said you can just see, I think his words were, it changes from protect and serve to attacking to more, it changes just the way that the police act. So I think there's a range of opinions on it, but I think that in the very least, and that's on the candidate pledge, is defunding this like pipeline of military equipment going. It's almost like, oh, well, we spent all this on all this stuff. We got to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Didn't Michael? Didn't you have, when the NATO thing was in town? You kind of witnessed this, right?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you've ever been to the RNC or the DNC before or anything like that, I mean, that's huge militarization of the police. But when the NATO Assembly came to Dayton, Ohio this last year in 2025 in May, I mean, yeah, they locked down the whole city and, all sorts of this stuff. So, I feel like with police, like, I kind of got a little flack from my lefty friends because I said I wanted to pay police officers more. But what I mean by that is, like, you need to we need to keep talent, because police officers have such a unique, position in society. They can violate your constitutional rights. Like, there's a police officer, and I guess the courts, but I feel there's a lot more checks and balances in the courts. But a police officer, like, they can, gosh, the 1st through 10th, the Bill of Rights is in their hands. And so I think we need high quality people in there. I don't like, the idea of good people leaving and, and you just have low trained, low skilled, I don't want those people in charge of such an important societal thing, which is upholding your constitutional rights. So, but and then also when I say, it pay cops more, doesn't mean let's only just law and order and anything like that. Like, no, I'm totally for, like, investing in society. So we, don't need police, as much anymore, is what my theory on it. So if anyone wants to comment on that, or anything like that, like, I'm definitely against the police state, but I do think we need, quality trained, same as teachers. I don't want, like, bad, I want the best teachers to stick around. Like, I don't want to lose the talent for such an important, integral part of society.
Well, I bet Kloud would agree with this. We had, there's a Green candidate, Michael Dublin. I love Michael. He's great. He's here in North Carolina near me. And he said, he was kind of like, well, you guys are all, talking about ICE. We've been dealing with this in my community, for his whole life. And he's like, people will say, well, if you're just following the law, you don't need to worry about it. And he's like, that is not the case if you're someone of color. And he just found it kind of almost, I don't know, not comical, but just that people believe that, that there's not targeting just based on those. And he said, I think he said something about they're not like deporting. I mean, you guys are closer to the Canadian border, so you would know
Yeah.
there is profiling. They're not deporting the Canadians. And actually, I can speak to that specifically because my mother has been in the U.S. since she was 3 and is still a green card holder, Canadian, and they're not coming after her. So,
I guess
Wow.
for me, where I differ from, I guess, a lot of candidates is that I am more in support of community policing initiatives than I am for established policing initiatives. Um, I don't, I don't think that the policing system as we know it right now is something that can be fixed. I think it's something that needs to be completely reestablished into something a little bit more sustainable, not just for communities of white communities, but also for communities of color. Because right now that's something that it's definitely not. Like what we see is over policing and at the same time under policing. And what I mean by that is that we see when there's the smallest hints of crime, we see a large influx of cops. But when there's actual policing needing to be done in terms of actually serving and protecting, they're not there for that.
Well, it's a culture, just the way that I think they sort of get off on the authoritarian, I don't know how you fix that. Sensitivity training, I don't know. But okay, well, we'll move on to, oh, whoops, sorry, I keep putting up the wrong one. All right, here we go. Election security. This is a very touchy topic. We won't stay on it too long, but I will just tell you a quick story. So here in North Carolina, there was a very corrupt county board of elections director, and he built this huge thing where we had an observation window, making it look all transparent. But yet he ended up trespassing some activists who were just, out protesting, and they wanted to take pictures of poll tapes and stuff like that. And it was just, his attitude was very, like, he didn't want that there. So he built this big thing and then does that. And then even on election night, we're out protesting, and he put up this giant privacy screen. Who knows what they spent on that around the whole perimeter of the main board of elections for that county. And so this friend of mine took him to court because she was one of the people that was trespassed, and she ended up winning. And he ended up he retired, and he was headed for the state board of elections. So that's a victory. But it is I even had trouble finding good polling for this because it's such a polarized topic. You've got the 2020 people that thought that, stop the steal. You've got some conspiracy theories that came out of the 2024 election saying that Harris won. So I just wonder if you don't really have any particular position on this. I just wondered if you want to talk about what you hear maybe in your communities. Do you hear this topic discussed at all? Whoever wants to take that first.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
So John can go.
Okay.
Yeah, as I go door to door, I hear from a few people. The thing is, this is a Republican brainwashing thing, and here in Maine, the National Republican folks got a referendum going, and I was standing next to some of the signature collectors who were basically saying, you want to sign up for voter ID for voting? So people come up, sure, it sounds like a good idea. It sounds like a great idea. But there are all these other strings attached that obviously they didn't tell the people about. So anyway, the public, Maine people wised up, and I think they defeated it about roughly 2-1. So is it an issue here in Maine? Yeah, it is, but really only among the hardcore MAGA folks.
Okay. What do you think, Kloud, or what's your experience?
I will say in my area, yeah, there is I'm part of that 49%. Honestly, I'm 29 years old, and I'm part of that 49% that has their doubts about the integrity of this upcoming midterms. I mean, we see it with the most recent Voting Rights Act being repealed, and then the Save America Act that they're trying to push through. And when we see so many things like that, it's kind of hard not to have a little bit of hesitation and doubt into the entire process. I hear it all the time. I'm a member of my local DSA chapter, and it's something that they talk about pretty frequently as well. So it is something that's being talked about, not just among MAGA, but also among more leftist groups as well.
Now, are they mainly concerned, about like ICE being at the polling? I mean, is it and all of that, like you said, the SAVAC, do they talk any about the election process itself, or the machines, or any of that, like transparency, or is that kind of not really?
Yeah, they have various discussions on all of those kind of things. I don't really want to go too deep into the contents of the meetings and stuff like that, but yeah, they do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be doing probably half a dozen, a series on election integrity, election security, and what I've witnessed over the last 8 years. And like I said, it is very polarized, and there's a ton of misinformation. So I decided I need to kind of blow the whistle on some things that I've witnessed. But we'll move on from that right now. Okay, so the next one is, okay, so you kind of touched on this already, John, just legal stuff, or it sort of ties in with transparency, but you mentioned that you've sued.
Our state court system is a joke, and the laws in Maine are a joke. For example, they've made it essentially impossible for the public to sue the government. Legal standing provision. I took the state to court for failing to comply with its statutory mandates with regard to wildlife management. And wildlife belonged to everybody. So I figured, well, everybody should have legal standing. And the Superior Court said, no, you don't have legal standing, case closed. So I went to I appealed to the Maine Supreme Court. I didn't have an attorney for any of this. It was fun. Believe me, it was fun. And I went to the Maine Supreme Court. No, you don't have legal standing, case is closed. Well, they never even considered the merits at all of the case. They just said you don't have legal standing. And our whole system is not broken, it's fixed. Rigged.
So that's why I asked you, you've been in this so long. I mean, how did we get here where that's the way things are?
The way we got here, in my opinion, is the two-party system. The fact that these Republicans and Democrats put party first. The fact that the only thing they care about is winning elections. The fact that the public is complacent and lets it happen. And so they're just going to do whatever they can do to get away with whatever they can get away with. And it just happens. And that's why we need independent folks like Kloud and myself who aren't either Democrat or Republican, whose goal is to help the people, not to work for the party, and not to work for the power, those in government in power. So this is what's happened. The two parties, they're both incredibly corrupt, and they just put winning elections above all else.
So what do you guys think about helping the people that are supporting you understand who the judges are on their ballot? Because I'm guilty of this myself many years ago. It's well, first of all, if you were voting for one party or another, the judges typically don't, you have to go dig up that information. It doesn't say that on the ballot, what party they're with. But I think that is something that is an obstacle. But if people knew more about the judges that are on their ballot, how they ruled in certain cases, that could be a really powerful way to sort of start beating down this wall of power that we can't seem to get through. Like you said, they just say you don't have standing. Well, I mean, we need better judges in there then.
Here in Maine, people do not have the opportunity to vote for judges. Judges are all appointed, so you can imagine the corruption that happens there by appointing so and so and so and so and so and so. I mean, they're appointed for a reason.
Right, of course. Well, so I don't really know that. I'm still kind of learning about that, but I guess, is that a
Right.
statewide thing then? What, Cloud, do you know that in New York?
I'm
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's just
Varies from
something
state to state.
Hmm?
I think it varies from state to state. I can assure you, we do not elect our judges here in Maine.
I know in North Carolina, it's like a mixture. We do elect judges, but then there are also ones that are appointed. So I think education, and Karen Ortiz was we had a good conversation about this.
Mm-hmm.
And she even had a website that she set up. It's not like operational right now, but that will be to help people that are pro se, fighting without a lawyer. That's another huge obstacle. If you don't have a lot of money, you can't even, so what is the point of having statutes if, you know, they don't have to be followed because no one can challenge them. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I think that's another area that independent and third party candidates could really help educate people in their communities about the judges. Yes.
Cloud, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if I'm remembering correctly, I think here in New York, the local judges are by election, but the New York Court of Appeals, that's by appointment only.
Okay. But like publicly putting out, do you know this judge voted or, ruled this way on this case? I think that would be really helpful.
It's something that you have to look into. It's
Yeah,
not something that's publicly out there.
I know. It's going to
Yeah.
take some work to do. And that's, elbow grease, I guess. John.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot.
Oh, that's okay. All right. Well, let's see. We'll go back to where were we? All right. This is great. The environmental hazards, and you've kind of already touched on that, John. So I'll come back to you first. But so you talked about wildlife.
Sure.
You held a government office though, and
Yeah. I have really, really good firsthand experience with the environmental laws in Maine, and what's happened over time is that they've been weakened to the point where they now benefit the polluters and the violators. The legislature has made the laws so complex and so cumbersome as to make it almost impossible for the state to pursue an enforcement action against the violator. And I saw that time and time and time and time again. And as a person on the inside, I mean, I complained about it and complained about it, and complained about it, but you know, this is when I say the system is rigged. I mean, that's just one more example of this big rigged to benefit those in power and the favored special interests. So that's the way it is in the state of Maine. The number of environmental enforcement cases has probably dropped to almost zero. Largely, that's part of the reason, but the other part of the reason is the administrations that are in place simply don't want to enforce the laws that we do have.
jeez. Cloud, do you want to comment on this? Do you know of any like particular, environmental hazards like in your community?
Yeah. We have the stamp data center that they're trying to build up on the Tonawanda land. I'm adamantly opposed to that. I think that it's going to cause unnecessary pollution, unnecessary rises in our electric bills. Definitely on the environmental stances, I could stand to be a little bit more educated and versed on. But that at the least, I know is the biggest thing right now in my community.
Well, Michael, I got to hand it over to you on this one. And you can find his clip on the Instagram, No Peasants. He talked about the data centers, but what you're doing in Ohio, do you want to?
Yeah, we have the big drive here to ban data centers. We're going to make it or ban large scale data centers here. These are large scale data centers, and it's going to be a constitutional amendment. And we're trying to gather signatures right now to get it on the ballot. We need 430,000 statewide, and it's about a 100-day window. So there is volunteers all across the state. They got a big thing going on. Lot of enthusiasm. People hate these things. There's a lot of voter education going on right now. A lot of people are unsure about it, or some are if it's not in their backyard type of thing. But the groundswell of support is from Republican farmer voters out in these rural areas where they're plopping up next to them and they're committing all sorts of environmental problems and the noise and the electric going up and all this trash. So yeah, it's kind of a sign of the times. Ohio has 200 data centers in it, and they have over 100 proposed, and they even have like the largest one in the world that is like proposed right now, and it's like in the works. So like, yeah, Ohio is kind of ground zero for this. We just had a Republican governor candidate, Casey Push, running in the Ohio governor's race against Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek won in flying colors, 80%, got 80% of voters. But he's all for data centers and H-1B visas. Yeah, the candidate that was running against him was against them as a Republican, and he was looking to ban them also. So, but he lost. It was like 80-20.
Did you hear about, I think it was just a couple of days ago, there's a 40,000 acre data center in Utah that I guess it must have passed today maybe, that was going to happen. 40,000 acres. Oh my God.
Have fun with that, Utah.
Yeah, and on the note, you're talking about that race, Butch and Vivek. I saw someone post about like, does money buy our elections? And they I think it's Gen X girl on Twitter, and it showed the difference in how much money was raised. But I wonder what you guys think about this. What at some point, I mean, where is that money going? It's going to ads? But at some point, doesn't the public like get oversaturated with that, or you just wonder when you see that, like how can that money? Does there at some point where it's not effective anymore? I don't know. What do you guys think?
As long as they keep getting elected, as long as the people keep electing the ones that spend the most money, they're going to continue to spend the most money. That's the way it is here in Maine. They really just saturate the TV with mindless commercials. So, the democracy is still an experiment, right? We don't know if it's going to work or not. I can assure you, there's no democracy in the state of Maine, for darn sure. But they entrust the public with voting for hopefully the right candidate or the best candidate. And I don't know if the public is really up to it here, at least here in our state.
Mm-hmm. Well, but what are the TV ads? Well, I know younger generations, right, Kloud, are not watching TV, but I guess all of that is trickling down through all of the other social media and all of the control of this.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say a big part of it here is social media advertisement. You see it heavily on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, and it gets heavily saturated very fast.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it is still effective, which is very discouraging. But okay, let's see. Let's do healthcare reform. Either of you want to comment on that? Well, John, we'll start with you.
Yeah. My proposal basically is to get the insurance companies out of the healthcare business, and to begin, I would say, little by little, maybe starting with emergency rooms or whatever, having a state funded program to maybe pilot programs or whatever. I will tell you that I do not believe our state government is capable of administering a universal health care program. I don't believe we have the talent. I don't believe we have the systems in place to do that. But I do believe eventually it should happen.
If you got elected, would you like lead the charge for the institutional reform needed for something like that?
Absolutely.
Okay, you can make it happen if the people elect you.
Well, see, governor's job is to be a leader, right? And too many of these politicians, I refer to them as flags, whichever way the winds blow, and that's the way they're going. They let the wind dictate what they do, public opinion or politics or whatever. But as governor, I would definitely lead the charge. And I say that with nearly 30 years experience working in the executive branch.
Mhm.
Huge problems there. And as governor, I'm going to try to begin, solving some of those problems, which, quite frankly, none of the other candidates have a clue as to what's going on in the executive branch. None.
Mm.
Uh, so, yeah, universal health care, little by little, piece by piece. We need to keep that money in the state of Maine and not send it to the insurance companies. And, if it works elsewhere, it should work here, but it's going to take time.
Right. All right, Kloud.
Yep. I'm a huge supporter of universal health care, Medicaid for all, getting insurance out of the entire industry is a huge priority for me. So yeah, I'm right there with John on that.
Yeah, I saw a post today from Barack Obama, who I voted for twice, and it's something about the big center in Illinois, I guess, and I just saw, yes, we can. And I commented, yes, we can, drones strike innocent civilians. Yes, we can create Obamacare, which was a huge giveaway to the insurance companies. And, I had one of those plans at one point. It was insane, the premiums, and then they wouldn't cover anything either. So that was a big scam. But so we're at the top of the hour. So why don't we, since you're up, Kloud, do you want to tell where people can find you and what you need? What can people do to help you out?
Right. You can find me at all my socials are going to be the exact same. It's Kloud4NY, the number 4, and then just NY. And you can also find me on my website at cloud4congress.com. Right now, what we really need are volunteers, just people who are willing to stop in, help out. That can be both, not just in-state volunteers. We always need help with the marketing aspect of things, logo designs, graphics, etc. That's really where we could use the most help right now. But, if you're in the Rochester area and you want to help collect petitions, definitely could use the help there.
Okay, John.
Yeah, this is a message for everybody across the country. Come on over to Maine. It's the best state in the nation. It's got the best people in the nation. And we can certainly use help gathering some signatures here. It's going to be close for us. Every signature is going to count. So if there's anybody out there who wants to come visit and get some of this nice Maine spring, come on over and we'll give you the petition sheets and set you free. Thank you.
I would recommend, John, I know, I first saw you on Diane Sayre's, one of her Zoom meetings, but Kloud, if you don't know who she is, she ran for Senate in New York, and she managed to get, I think the signature requirement was like 45,000 something, and she managed to do it. So she's like one of the only ones. So be good to talk to her. She has meetings, I think, on Mondays. But yeah, so, okay. Well, it was really great to meet both of you, and you're very inspiring. We just have to get the public to believe that independents can win, and I believe they can. So, okay. Thank you so much.